8 minutes paper, light it bright. 8 minutes privacy, research, insight. 8 minutes paper, feel the spark. 8 minutes privacy, making its mark. 8 minutes ticking, changing game. 8 minutes privacy, rewriting the name.
Welcome, and please subscribe to our channel. Today we're talking about something, well, pretty central to how we live online: privacy. Specifically, what really makes us want it. We're looking at some research that unpacks why we share our personal info, or why we choose not to. And it seems there's more going on than you might first think. So, when you say more than meets the eye about privacy motivations, what are we actually talking about?
Yeah, it's fascinating, really. The main idea is that privacy preferences aren't just one single thing. Like, it's not monolithic. Research is showing we can break it down into two distinct parts. Something called intrinsic preference and then instrumental preference.
Okay, intrinsic and instrumental. Let's unpack that. What's the core difference there?
Well, intrinsic preference is sort of like your personal baseline taste for privacy. You value it just for itself, maybe because you see it tied to personal freedom or autonomy.
Like keeping a diary private.
Exactly. Or maybe someone resisting, say, a contact tracing app, not because of a specific risk they see, but more a general feeling about, Big Brother or oversight. It's the principle of it. Then the instrumental preferences, well, it's more practical. It's driven by what you expect to gain or lose, often economically, by giving up your information. It's about the actual tangible outcome.
Okay, so like
a driver, maybe one who isn't always sticking to the speed limit, right? They might really not want an insurance device tracking their driving because, well, it could directly lead to higher premiums. That's instrumental.
Got it. So one is about the feeling, the principle, and the other is about the concrete consequences. Why is separating these two actually important? Does it change how we understand things?
Oh, absolutely. If you look at the bigger picture, separating these helps us understand how people self-select into sharing data. Who shares what and why. It sort of pulls back the curtain on that old saying, if you've got nothing to hide, you've got nothing to fear. That can be really misleading sometimes.
Right, because someone might have nothing specific to hide, but still value privacy intrinsically.
Precisely. And if businesses don't get this distinction, they might make, just wrong assumptions about their customers. And that leads to less effective strategies, maybe even bad decisions.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So how did the researchers actually, measure these preferences? Did they put numbers on them?
They did, yeah. They set up an experiment to figure out people's willingness to accept compensation, basically, how much money someone would need to be paid to share certain data, WTA, they call it. And what they found for intrinsic preferences was a huge range, really diverse. For sharing just one piece of demographic info like gender, the WTA could be super low, like $0.14.
14 cents.
Yeah, but then for sharing information about their kids, that jumped way up to $2.37 on average.
Okay, quite a difference just for one data point. So does that mean some people just don't care much intrinsically?
It seems like it varies a lot. And when they looked at sharing a whole demographic profile, multiple bits of info, the average value people put on it was about $10.34. But, and this is interesting, for some people, it went as high as almost $30, around $29.72.
$30 just for basic profile info.
Yep. It suggests that maybe intrinsic privacy is something people learn to value, or maybe it's even a bit like a luxury good. You see it more among, say, more educated or wealthier groups. But here's the kicker. The instrumental preferences. They were much higher. We're talking $20 to $50 per variable.
Whoa, okay. So the potential financial hit or gain really weighs heavily.
It does, and people seemed pretty good at figuring out those potential costs or benefits, too.
So with these different values floating around, intrinsic versus instrumental, how does that actually play out in terms of who shares their data? Does it skew the data pool?
That's the key question, right? The whole issue of selection bias. Is the data you get actually representative? For some things, like maybe sharing if you intend to buy something, the usual thinking holds up people who feel less at risk from sharing are more likely to do it. But interestingly, for income data, the study found these two preferences, intrinsic and instrumental, often pushed in opposite directions.
Opposite directions? How so?
Well, someone might intrinsically not want to share income, but
instrumentally see a benefit, or vice versa. And the net effect. Surprisingly, there wasn't a significant overall selection bias for the income data they collected.
Huh. So you can't just...
Well, it means they could actually get better results, better targeting, better predictions if they factor these privacy choices into their models. They can sort of debias their insights by accounting for why people did or didn't share.
Okay, so use the privacy choice itself as another data point.
Essentially, yes, but there's a big but: the cost. The research showed that what firms are typically willing to pay for data, their WTP, was often pretty low, around 0.27 cents per variable.
27 cents versus the $10, $20, even $50 people value it at. That's a massive gap.
It really is, and it suggests that just trying to buy up huge amounts of data on everyone, that mass market approach, might not actually be economically smart or even feasible for many firms.
So what's the alternative then?
A more strategic approach could be buying smaller but carefully chosen representative samples. Make sure the small sample really reflects the whole group accurately. This could be especially important for things like training AI models, where the quality and representativeness of that initial data get amplified hugely. It becomes a trade-off. Do you want tons of potentially skewed data or a smaller amount of higher quality, truly representative data?
Yeah, that really paints a clear picture. It's definitely not just a simple yes or no when it comes to our data.
Not at all. It's this really nuanced mix of, deeply held personal values and some pretty clear-eyed economic thinking.
So, listening to this, maybe think about your own data. What really drives your choices? Is it that intrinsic feeling or the potential outcome? Something to consider next time you see one of those consent forms pop up. Please subscribe to our channel. See you next time.